Good morning, everyone. So in the last session, we are trying to discuss about the H2 database configuration, and we inserted the data into the H2 database, and at the same time, we are trying to load the data from the database here. Okay, so this is the simple example we identified here. If I'm going to explain this, so again, we'll try to identify so what is a localhost 8080. So this is the simple application we implemented. Getting the point. Now what we are doing here, so we are trying to insert the data. So how we are inserting the data? If you're trying to click on this particular registration, and we'll go to the H2 consoles also. So this is the H2 console we need to connect here, and the password. So I'm jamming into this particular table here. So you can see we have a table called login as well as registration. Now, so in the registration, if I'm going to write the select query, so in the registration, so I think we don't have any data here. Now you can identify clearly it is not does not have any information here. So here it is showing the empty records here. Okay. So if I'm going to run with the same thing login table, default we are going to get one record here. Default one record we are going to get. So how we are getting this particular record? Basically, this record we inserted from the data SQL. Getting the point. So this is important section we need to understand here. Getting the point. So now what I will do, so again we'll insert the one more record just for understanding how it is working. Now you can see first name. So same example, whatever we discussed in the last example, again I'm trying to insert with the same record here. So string underscore boot, and here I'm trying to give the same password. So this is the same password, and some random number. Okay, so email, this is city. So now so So Karnataka, something I don't know. So I'm trying to give random number. These are all the some fields I imported. Like I'm trying to click on the data. And again, what we are doing here. So again, if I'm trying to run with this particular registration, if I'm trying to run with the select star from registration, now we are getting the some records here. Okay. So the ID randomly it is going to generate the four values. Every time it will give you the four values here, because this is the Spring JDBC we are discussing here. Because of this, now what happens internally, it will try to give you the random number, and we are trying to setting into this particular ID here, and later we are trying to give the, so whatever we are having the data here. Okay, so whatever we provided, phone number, email, city, and state, some zip code here. So from where we given? From the registration page. So another important section what we need to understand here, basically whenever I'm trying to click the registration again, if I'm trying to click on save, now it is allowing here without providing any values. Without providing any values, now it is allowing. So what we need to do, basically, we need to stop this. Getting the point? We need to stop this. Like, we cannot give the permission. If I'm going to click on this, now new record is created, but only ID is there. So whatever this particular first and the last name, all fields are empty. So how we can so like stop this without providing any values, because we did the validation in the Spring, the same validation we are going to use here. Getting the point? So this is important here. So what kind of the validation we are going to write here? So to understand this simple example, first we need to write the valid annotation, whether it is available or not. First we need to check, because the same valid annotation we already implemented in the Spring based applications. So if I'm going to provide the home controller where we are trying to discuss here, so something like a save registration details. So here we need to provide the valid annotation. So why we need to provide this particular valid annotation? So this particular valid annotation will validate the each and every field here. Each and every field it is going to validate it. So along with this, and what are the additional fields we need to provide here? So something like, so not null. Okay, you can see. So these are all the different packages here. So we are what is the package we are expecting it? So something like Hibernate related packages we are expecting. But here, so we are getting different package information. Now what we need basically, we need to add the validator related starter here. So to add this, now what we need basically, again, we need to go to the Maven repository. So inside the Maven repository, you can write starter. So you can write this particular starter validation. So now you can see this is the starter we are going to use is Spring Boot starter validation. Now, so this version is available 2.7.3. So current version we are also discussing on the same. And whenever we are having this particular starter, now we need to go to the pom.xml. And here, so this section we can comment out, because we don't need any version section here. So because all each and every version is going to imported from the from where, from this particular parent section. So now you can see in the parent we are having 3.7.3. Okay, so this is important here. Now once we provided this, now what we need here, so if I'm going to show you the validate section, now it will come up with the annotations here. So it is not coming. So maybe we need to refresh this here. So Maven, it should be refreshed here. Now you can see, so importing the Maven project here. This is important here. Okay, so once it is imported, now we'll try to refresh one more time. Now you can see javax.validation.valid annotation. So this is we are going to import here. So after this, so what is another important step we need to write here? Getting the point. So what is another important step we need to write? So this is important section we need to understand here. Whenever we are trying to discuss about this particular value, so one more important part we are missing. So that also we need to write here. So what is the another important section we need to write here? So something like errors related section. So why we need to add this particular errors related sections as well here? Because if you are getting anything error, so the errors we are going to identify with help of this particular error. So we'll see from where this particular package we can use. So org Spring Framework boot dot auto configure integration properties. So here we need to identify the section information. This is very important here. So we are not identifying the particular. Okay, so before going to write this particular error, now we'll go for the here not null constants here.
Sorry to interrupt in between. Can you give overview what we are trying to achieve in this class today?
So if you attended yesterday class, you can understand what we are discussing today.
So today is the first class of mine. So
Okay, so basically we completed the Spring frameworks. Now we are trying to discuss about the Spring Boot functionality, and inside the Spring Boot, like we connected with the like in-memory database called H2 database, which is provided by the Spring Boot. So we have inserted data into the H2 database. Now we are trying to validate some field. So those concepts we are discussing here. So just go through the recorded session what we discussed up to the last session, so you can easily understand. But if it is a fast session, so you cannot understand what we are doing. So just try to attend this. Basically, it's a simple one without providing the any field. If you are trying to insert a record with empty values, so we are trying to make validations here. So we are giving some restrictions here. If the field does not contain any value, again we are redirecting to the same page with some error messages. So this is we are trying to implement here.
okay, thank you.
Okay. So back to here. Now not null constants I'm providing here, and after this I'm trying to providing size here. So minimum size we can provide here. So what we can write here. So username should be, so minimum it should be, so you can make something like 5 characters, or you can make anything 3 characters or whatever you are interested. Okay, but our requirement is 5, and if the 5 characters are not satisfied, we are going to throw this particular message. So here username must be at least characters. Okay, so this is I want to provide. So same thing you can write for the password also. So password basically you can make whatever you want to. So here also we can go for the same pattern. So pattern we can go for the and we can write here. So here now just I want to provide password. The password also must be 5 characters. And so confirm password it is not required here. So first name. So what we can do, the first name here we'll try to provide the message here. If the value we are not providing, so first name is required. Some message we can write here. Okay, so first name is required. So last name something like phone, email, and the city. So state and zip code. So we'll try to modify the messages here. Last name. So phone. So email, we can go for the same pattern whatever we used in the Spring also. But right now we'll see later the pattern. We'll try to identify this particular not null constraint first. So later we can define the email pattern. Okay, so this is important. So after providing this particular section, now what we will do, here we are going to provide the another important section called errors here. So whatever the errors we are trying to discuss here is unmuted. Okay, so back to here we need to discuss about the errors concepts. So now you can see org Spring Framework validation. Getting the point. So when we are trying to discuss about the Spring Boot internally, whatever we are discussing, same example we are trying to identify here, because Spring Boot internally it is going to work on the Spring concepts only. Okay, so now I identify this particular errors. What we can write the condition. So the condition basically here I am going to identify the condition. So errors dot has errors. When this particular errors contain some errors, now what we can do? So simply we can return this particular registration page only. So instead of doing the redirection, basically directly we can provide this. Directly we can provide this particular redirections. And here what we need to provide? So we need to provide the message also. So what is the message we need to provide here? So this is important section we need to understand. Now I provided the validation for this particular registration page. Now we need to go to the, so inside the template we are having registration.html. So inside this particular registration.html, I want to provide the error message fields here. So we are using input to getting the point. So whenever we are using this particular input here, so we need to identify the we can go for the span class. So here we can write the, so something like so validation error, and here we can check this particular error. So ts dot th colon, so not if. Let's see, so whether do we have if. See, where is if? Okay, we have a if also. Okay, now what I'm doing here, so here I'm trying to selecting this particular field here. So this is important information we need to identify here. So from where we are trying to identify this. So whatever this particular field we are having here, we need to write the code here, something like a dollar, and inside this fields dot has error. Okay, here we can write the particular field name. What is the field name we are having? First name. This is important here. So here we are making the condition if this particular field contain any error. So the errors I'm going to display here. So where I'm trying to display here. So here we are going to display here th colon errors. Getting the point. So here same field, whatever the field we are trying to display, this is the field. Okay, span class. Now this is the way of writing it. Now if you observe carefully, first we are checking the if this contain any error, this errors we are trying to display here. Okay. Now what we can identify? First we need to identify the first property called first name. Now we'll see what happens internally. Let me start the server one more time. Okay, so application is started here. Now we'll go to the Springboard and we'll come back to the home page here. Now click on the registration. So I'm trying to save this. So it is saving. So something is missing here because it is not handling this. If you're going to run this query, password and select star from registration. Okay, so 0 records. So why the records are not created here? Let's see. Click on save. Okay, I hope we'll get empty records. It should print the message. So data is not inserting anyway. But finally, what happening? Whether it is okay. So request is coming here. So something it is failing here. So what we can do? First name does not have any errors where we implemented. So first name, where is the first name? This is not null. Okay, so along with this particular not null, if I'm going to provide the size here, so we'll identify what happens internally this particular size instead of not null. Okay, maybe now I understand here what we are having. Instead of not null, we can go for the not blank here. So it is expecting only null information, but we are not providing blank also, like empty related sections also we are providing. So maybe because of this, so it is moving. So I'm making all the fields with not blank here. So the difference between not null and not blank, because if you are trying to work with a string related section, so empty also it will consider here. So whatever the empty we are trying to providing, so the empty basically it should come as a blank here. So that we need to identify here. So let me reload this. So maybe sometime it will not reload successfully. Okay, so anyway we modified all the changes. Now we need to identify here. So instead of doing this, we'll put a breakpoint here. Whether this request is like this condition is satisfying or not, we need to identify here. Now what I'm doing here, I'm trying to run one more time here. So in the debug mode, we are checking this section. Okay, so application is started successfully. Now we need to refresh this. Okay, so I'm trying to click on the registration. So again, I'm trying to click on the save. Now the request is coming back to this. Now you can see we have a 12 errors. So if we identify carefully here, so we are able to see 12 errors here. Getting the point. So here it is providing the 12 error sections here. So now we need to identify what are these particular errors. If I'm trying to explain this error section, now you can go to this error section. Now you can see So field error with object rejected values. So not blank. So registration something we are able to see here. So what is the message? Zip code is required. Getting the pen. So zip code is required. So where we provided this section? So we provided inside this particular registration class. So same way we are having phone number is required. Something like so we have a different two fields here. So must not be blank here. Whatever we are discussing about this particular confirm password. So the default message coming, and same way city is required here, and last name. Getting the point. So this is the way we can identify. Now if I'm trying to come back to the where is why the debug mode is not coming? Okay, here it is coming, right? So maybe because of this service. Now if I'm trying to click this, now you can see, so it is going back to the same registration page. Getting the point. Now it is going back to the same registration page. Basically what we are expecting here, so we need to see the messages as well, but the message is not showing here. So this is very important section here. So why this message is not showing here? Why this particular message is not showing here? So what we are missing in the registration page? Finally, we are not giving the option to save with empty values. We are trying to redirect into the same registration page here. Now if you see, because of this particular registration HTML, it's trying to move on to the path here. Getting the point. So if you observe here, save registration details, it is going to this particular path, but finally it is not coming back to here, this section here. This section is not satisfying. Because of this, in the UI pages, we are able to see the same here, save registration details. But if you see, everything the successfully it's completed, now we are not seeing this particular employee registration page. We'll go back to the home page here. Getting the point. So this is we already identified here, but finally, so we are trying to make some restrictions with the empty values. But what we need to identify here, so the registration whatever we provided here, it should print this particular message here. So why the message is not printing? This is important here. So what we are providing is, so credit card section, and here we need to write the message here. So why the whatever we are trying to providing the message, it should print basically. Let me add a span message here. We'll identify this. So which message it is going to print here. Okay, so let me refresh this. Again, I'm trying to run. Basically, we are expecting to see so error message as well. So now it is a time-diff framework we are using here. No, it is not printing. Okay, so anyway, it is coming to this registration. So 2 times we selected this. Okay, now you can see first name is required. Now it is coming here. So whatever we are providing here, so the message is coming here. First name is required here. Getting the point. So this is inside the span class, whatever we are using. Because of this, it is trying to providing this particular message. For example, if I'm trying to providing first name, something like spring here. Let's see. So I'm trying to click on this. Now we'll go back to here. Now you can see for this particular first name, it is not showing any message here, but remaining fields we did not implemented any sections here. Because of this, it is trying to stop here only. Whatever the page we are trying to implementing, it is trying to here only. So this is important, we need to understand, because we are getting some error. If you write the whatever the span class we are using, the whatever this particular span the element like HTML tag we are using, so we need to implement for all the sections here. And instead of you doing this, so we'll try to identify maybe, so whatever we provided from the not null constant, so that should be we need to print here. So not this particular section, but anyway we need to identify here how this particular section is going to work. Mm, so what we are checking here as errors. If it is contain error, it is trying to print this. Okay. Basically, okay, let me identify time leaf here. So, how to write the time leaf error page. So we need to identify. So we need to write the error page. Maybe I think this will work with a different error page, I'm thinking. So text timestamp from where it is coming. Okay, they are trying to providing this particular text only. Okay, so every information they are constructing like this. No, not this. So we are not expecting this. So that is also we can write here, but instead of this, let me write the text here. So th dot whatever we are having here. We'll see. So whether without providing this message, whatever we add, whatever we added from the annotation, so the particular message we are expecting here. Because if you see in the registration, we provided this section. So first name is required here. So that message we are expecting here. Now anyway, we'll go back to the same registration and click on this. Now go to the F8 here. No. So it is not printing this. Okay, so I think instead of TX, whatever the first name error we are having, it should print here. Basically, whatever we are using, so it should print here. So label first name, input type text, first name we are using, and we are checking the condition. So the condition it should be the same first name and fields dot. Okay, first name is required. So basically, we'll see from where it is trying to show this. Again, I'm trying to stop this. Should be print whatever errors we are having. Registration, first name. So we'll come back to here. I'm closing this. First name is required. Yes. So now you can see first name is required. From where it is coming? If you identify this, it is not coming from the registration.html. So just we provided the first name here. And if you go to the registration, now it is trying to print from this. Okay, first name is required. So this is the message we provided. The same message we are able to see here. So let's same time, now what we can do, we'll try to write all the span classes. Okay, so this is for username and password, confirm password, phone number, email, and we can write city, and we can write state, and we can go for the zip code. Now what we can write here? So just I'm trying to modify this section. So I think here also we need to modify. zip code, state, city, and so email. So we'll try to use the pattern here. So whatever the pattern we used here, so I will copy the same pattern. Let me start the previous example. So meanwhile, and confirm password. Okay, and we'll go to the whatever we discussed in the previous example. So finally, this is important. So still we have username, last name. Okay, so this is we implemented all the span section here. Now what I will do, let me refresh this. So refresh is nothing but reloading. Finally, I am going to run the same example. And meanwhile, so where we implemented in the Spring MVC, go to the whatever the classes we discussed here, something like registered and pattern. So this is the email pattern. Now I will copy this, and here in the registration class, instead of not blank, we can provide the pattern here. So I'm importing this section. So now we'll see registration. So I want to disable the breakpoint here. Now click on the save. Now you can see all the errors we are able to get here. Getting the pen. So all the errors we are getting here. So first name, last name, so username and password, zip code, city, phone, email, everything we are able to see here. Okay, now what I will do, I will give you the Spring, boot username, the same example, and password also same. If the password is different, again we'll go for the same page only. Okay, so something like ABC. So I cannot go for all the sections here. Now you can see state and random number I'm giving here. What happening here? So password must be at least 5 characters. So now if we observe boot, basically it is a 4 characters. Okay, so we need to give the 5 character section. Now you can see it is coming back to the home page here. So this is the home page we implemented. If everything goes successfully, we are coming back to the whatever the home page we implemented. Now if I'm going to run this, so we need because we stopped the server, so every time whenever we are trying to stop this particular server, it will try to recreate the table structure here. So select star from registration. Now you can see all the data is created here. Getting the pen. So if we miss something, now we are going to get validation message, and if you fix the proper validation message, now we are able to come back to our home page here. So if everything goes successfully here. So this is another important example we are discussing here. So any questions on this validation part here? Because this already be implemented with the help of this particular Spring Boot we are discussing here. Okay, so if we don't have anything, now I'm trying to stop this particular H2 database. So whatever the H2 database we are using here, now we are not going to use any H2 database sections here. But what we will try to identify here, we'll try to identify the another important section, Mongo DB. So how we can write the integration part with our Spring Boot with Mongo DB. So we need to identify it. So before going to discuss about this particular example, now first I will create the one repository. Go to the GitHub. So here, let's see. Okay. So Spring Boot example. Okay. So it is already exist. Let's see what we have. Okay. So what we are discussing in this. The registration. Okay, so this is we are trying to discuss about the JDBC section. Where is that? Now, okay, so I think we'll try to continue the, because this is having the JDBC. Okay, I will give you the links, but now what I'm trying to show you. So can I extend this, whatever we discuss here, user repository, what we are having, insert into registration, login, city. Okay, I think this is a yesterday code only we discussed, I hope. Yeah, I think this is the yesterday code only. Now, let me see. So what is the repository we connected here? Horizon master. Home controller registration. Yes, let's see what are the files we committed. Unmodified files to this, and here I'm trying to write. I think this is an example we discussed in the last session. Spring Boot validation. Okay, I want to commit these changes first here. So after that, we can go for the like a MongoDB, how we can integrate. So now you can see here we are having some errors here because of this particular IntelliJ. So here everything it is providing this section. So from here only we are able to commit the changes, and we are able to see the another important section called while committing. If you are having any errors, if you are not using some code, so those particular sections it is going to provide. Now you can see unused import here. So what is the unused import we are using? User. So basically in the IntelliJ ID, so what is the class? Basically home controller. If you click on this particular class, and if you go to the reformat code, so Control Alt L. So basically this section you can see it will try to provide the optimized imports, rearrange the particular entities whatever we are trying to use, and it is trying to use a cleanup section. Now you can see what happened internally. So whatever the unused import we are having, now it is removed here. So this is the way we can provide the format here. Okay, so now I will go to the same commit section and refresh here. So whenever I'm trying to refresh here, so this particular section we cannot see now. So let me click on this. So these are all the different warnings here. From where we are getting? So this is we are getting from the registration.html. So missing the local store library, HTTP, some links here. So after this HTML page, we are not getting any other warning errors here. Okay, all are coming from the HTML page. So anyway, we can click on this, commit and push here. So these are all the files we modified here. So why this particular section is coming? We can see the differences here. So we are trying to add the validation section. Okay, earlier it is not there, the validation part. Now we are able to see. So this is the same section we are going to implement in the real time. Whatever we are trying to add it, with the help of this particular differences. First we need to check, later we can commit the changes here. So now it is committed into the local repository. Now we are trying to push. So whenever you are trying to push here, so it will go to the master branch here. So whatever the our master branch we are having here, so whenever I'm trying to push this particular changes, we are going to get, so pushed one commit to the main branch here. Now here I'm going to refresh this example. So now you can see Spring Boot validation. Getting the point. So this is important here. So this is the way of pushing the changes into this particular GitHub. Okay. So basically in the real-time application, so directly we cannot push into our master branch. Okay, some cases we are going to create a master or main branch, everything is going to same. But what we will do, we'll try to create a future branches. Like we are going to work on the everything on the future branch. So from the future branch, we are going to commit the changes to the master or main once the reviews are completed. Now what you will do, so here you can see, click on the master, create a branch. Here you can create the branches. So whatever we are trying to create, something like now we'll go to with Spring Mongo. Okay, so you can create something like and check out the branch here. So you can click on the checkbox here. So once you click on this particular checkout here, now what happens internally, one future branch it is going to create here. So now you can see, now we are in under the Spring underscore Mongo. Now if you can, from here you can go to the master also. You can go to the master also. Now we are under the, now we are not under the master branch, now we are under the future branches. So if you something, if you modify something, so it will go to the future branch. Okay, so from the future branch we can modify this. And so meanwhile I will give you this link here, so try to access whatever we are discussing, because Spring related section and Spring Boot related, Hibernate related, all I push the changes to here. So copy the link and practice. Now coming back to here, so whenever we are trying to discuss about the Mongo DB, first what we need, so first we need to identify the starters here. What are the starters we need? So before going to discuss about the starters here, first what we need to uncomment the unwanted starters. This is very important here, because if you are not uncommenting it, it will try to create the configuration for the whatever the required starters we are going to provide. So here, now what we are providing is, so this is the LOM back, and we are not going to use the JDBC, and we are not going to use the H2 database, and we are not going to use this particular data JPA. So these three I'm going to comment here. Okay, whenever I'm going to comment here, now we'll get an errors here. So most probably I'm thinking here, so we are going to get an error. So those errors first we need to resolve here. So if I'm going to run this after building, so I'm expecting, so now you can see here we are getting an errors here. So first we need to fix this particular errors. So why we are getting an errors? Because earlier we discussed about the JDBC here. Getting the point. So earlier we discussed about the JDBC here. Now what we are doing is we are trying to discuss about the Mongo DB. So because of that, so we are getting an errors here. Getting the point. So now if I'm going to keep as it is, what happens internally? So that first we'll identify. For example, if I'm trying to roll back these changes, so I'm going to use same sections here, either H2 database. Okay, so data JPA if I'm going to use as it is. Now what we can do, we'll try to add the, so MongoDB related starters here. So here, so you can write starter Mongo, where we are having test web AOP security JPA validation. Any second page we are able to see WebSocket email config open. Okay, so we are not getting this. I think we need to write the, okay, now I did. So what is the proper starter here? Here, I think this is the different one. Now you can see Spring Data MongoDB we are getting. but we need a Spring Boot related section. So data. Okay, now you can see here we are having. So Spring Boot starter, data, MongoDB. So this is, we need to identify. So this particular starter, now you can see it is trying to providing 2.7.3. So this is the current version. So with the help of this particular current version, we are trying to implementing the changes. Now another important section, I'm going to comment out the version because it will try to like import from the parent version. Okay, so we'll see this later, but now you can see, I hope MongoDB related libraries are imported. So if you understand, you can go to the external library. So you can identify from where this particular MongoDB is available. Apache, JBoss, Giant, you can see somewhere MongoDB identified here. So here we are having some driver related section, and internally it will try to provide the communication. So first, this is the step we need to write here. So after this, now what is another important step we need to write basically? Another important step basically here, connection here. So if I want to get the connection, first what we need, we'll try to download the MongoDB. MongoDB download here. So you can go to this MongoDB community download. First, we need a server basically. So whatever the server we are trying to use, so this is the MongoDB community server we need to download. So this is the current version. So you can select any one of the version. So most probably the current version is fine, and we can go to the Windows or different operating systems also it's going to support. So click on download. Okay. So first we need to download this particular community server. Later, so how we are using this particular section like dbeaver. Okay, so how we are using this particular dbeaver? Same way, MongoDB also having something tool sections here. Now, if you are trying to click on this particular tools here, so you can go to this particular compass. So using this particular compass, we are going to integrate the community server. So MongoDB community server. Okay, so these two we need to download here. So these are all the two important section. It's fine here. Now whether using this particular compass, we are able to see whether the data is inserted or not here. Okay, so these two sections I already downloaded here. Now, if I'm going to provide the compass, here I'm having the compass here. Okay, so by default, it will try to connect this particular local host. If the server is deployed in the different environment, not in the local, so maybe the local host is going to be replaced with the IP address. Only this is a change. So remaining this is same. So instead of JDBC, now we are able to see MongoDB. If we observe carefully here, where we identified in the Spring JDBC repository. So JDBC colon Postgres colon localhost 5432, and so this is the schema we are using. Okay, same way. Now if you see here for MongoDB, so localhost, this is the port number, the DB it is going to run, and if you are trying to connect with any the database, so what are the databases we are having here? So I will show you once you connected here. So admin config local. So you can select any one of this. Getting the point. So you can select any one of this and you can insert the data. So right now, nothing. So nothing is there. In the three databases, we are not having any information here. Okay. So we'll see how this particular data is going to create. So before going to discuss about this, and first we need to implement the code. So what are the code we can implement? So simple, because we already discussed about the JDBC template and we discussed about the Hibernate template here. Same way, so we have a MongoDB template here. We have a MongoDB template. So let me find this Mongo template. Maybe here we cannot see. So anyway, inside the user repository, so inside this particular user repository, why we are getting, it is not connected properly. Refresh this. Okay, so everything is resolved here. Okay, so in the last example, Control Alt Shift L. Here I'm going to use whole file and rearrange the code. Okay, so this is important here. Now what I will do, instead of this particular JDBC template, now I'm going to discuss about the Mongo template. So you can see, so Mongo template we are having. Now if I'm going to show you inside this particular Mongo template what we are having, first we need to identify. Now from where it is implementing it, these are all the interfaces they are trying to use. So but Mongo template which is coming from the which package, this is the MongoDB.core. And the MongoDB core package, we have a template called Mongo template here. And these are all the some properties we are having here. Now if you observe carefully, we are going to have different methods we are having. Now finally what we need to identify, MongoDB factory. So it's like a connection factory. So whatever the connection factory we identified in the JDBC template, and the same way in the Hibernate session factory how we implemented, same way in the MongoDB database factory we are going to use to connect the MongoDB related sections here. Okay, so this is the one constructor is we having and is expecting the converter as well as factory here. So now you can see these are all the some, this is the one more constructor and this is the method we are having, and we'll try to identify the save related method whatever we are having here. So stream related methods and so execute, you can see execute methods here we are internally it is expecting callback related section. So and the same way you can identify the save related also somewhere bulk operations. So find operations, like you can see, we identified Hibernate template.find. So we provided the query and we provided the some classes sections here. And same way we can go for the find by ID or find by district values. And okay, so these are all the some methods we are having, and we'll try to identify the section using this particular template. Now what we need basically here, I'm going to, so same section I'm going to use here. So instead of writing one more class, what can I do? So here I'm going to comment out this. So JDBC template I'm trying to comment out, and so this section I'm going to comment out, and after this, so up to this particular two sections. So whatever we discuss here, these two sections I'm going to comment out. Now I will try to write the same methods here. First, what we need to write here? Here we need to write the Mongo DB. So Mongo template here, and we can go for the Mongo template. And another one is constructor I'm trying to write. So user repository Mongo template, and we can write the Mongo template, and so this dot Mongo template is equals to, so basically instead of giving the property injection, now what we are doing is, so we are trying to give the so constructor injection. Okay, this is the constructor injection we are using here. And so what we can do, we'll try to I will copy these three and I will modify the changes based on our requirement. I'm going to modify the changes. Okay, so I'm going to load the random values, and instead of this particular JDBC template, now what I will do, so here MongoDB template dot save method. So now what we can do, here we can provide the registration. Getting the point. So here we can provide this particular registration, and here, so we don't need this particular ID also, because of JDBC. Basically what we did here, getting the point. So because of JDBC, so randomly we generated the ID value, but in the MongoDB or any Hibernate related, so automatically the ID is going to generate it. So for that case, now not required this particular long sections. Okay, so internally I'm going to call this particular save login details. So and here now what we can do, here we can create the login class. Login is equals to new login, and here login dot set username. So registration dot get username, login dot set password, set password. Okay. So after this, and here Mongo DB template dot save. So what we can identify login. Okay. So this is important here. So we are able to save this particular section. Now here load is section. So load section we'll see later with help of this particular same MongoDB. Now what we can identify here, I'm trying to comment out. So we'll see MongoDB template here. So do we have any load method? Load method, it is not available. Any get method we are having? So now you can see. So it is expecting the collection name. So collection converter DB, something we have, but we don't have any get method also. Now what we need to identify here? So we have a find method. Getting the point? So find method. Now here, based on this particular find by ID. Okay, so here what we can identify, we have a different method. Now you can see, so it's expecting the query as well as the type. So what is the type we are going to provide? It will try to load all the records from this particular section and it will return. It's like a find all. So here also we have a query we can provide and a class type we can provide. So it will try to convert it into the specific class. And now you can see find all, directly we can provide the class type, so that all the records whatever we are having inside this particular class we can load here. And here, so find by ID. So this is basically we are having find by ID. Based on this particular ID we can load here. Now what we need? So we need to provide the any other replacement. Basically we are going to use username here. Find and remove. We are not going to modify and remove. Find all, find by ID. So let's take string field, class type and result type. So maybe we can use this find a distinct values here. Okay, so we'll try to identify this query. So what is the query we are having here? The same query, whatever we can use, load, right? Login load. And here, what are the other fields is expecting? So entity class. Entity class basically login dot class. And another one is entity class is completed. After this, class object here. We need to provide the string field also. So collection type. So this is we are expecting string field. So field basically username. The last one, string field, whatever we are trying to provide, query, string field, class entity, and result class. So result class also it should be the same. Login dot class. Maybe it is expecting find a dictionary login, username, login or. Query we are providing. So this is the type. We don't need to specify any collection. String not required. Let's see, do we have any specific method? No, we don't have on this. So we are having find a distinct on this. So first one is expecting string class type, and so this is the entity type as well as is expecting this, but this is not suitable. Okay, this section we can see later, but now observe carefully. Simply we'll return null. We'll identify this example, but for what we are doing basically, this is how we are going to save the data is important. First we'll see, and here first we are creating the MongoDB template, and with help of this particular template, directly we are calling the save method, so that whatever the object we are having, successfully it is saved into the database. So once the data is saved, we'll come back to the load related section. But now if I want to save this particular object, but in the Hibernate template, what we are using, so we are trying to use a entity annotation. So same way, here we need to use some other annotation. So what is the annotation we need to use it? So if I'm going to show you, here we are going to use a document here. This is important because in the in the MongoDB, whatever the table we are going to create, it is going to store as a document type instead of raw type. Basically, in the relational databases, basically it will try to create the raw table, like it's going to come up with the columns with the values here. But in the MongoDB, what happens internally, because MongoDB is one of the NoSQL database here, so it will try to store the data in the JSON format, as well as it will try to store the data as a document format instead of storing as a raw format. So this is, we need to identify very clearly. So because of this, they come up with the one annotation, so something like document here. So we need to use this particular document, and on top of this particular ID, so same ID annotation. So but ID, so you can see this is coming from the persistence, but what we need to come up with a, so org Spring Framework data dot annotation. So this is the ID annotation we need to use it. So these are the two section, it's fine. And finally, so these are all the columns are going to created inside this particular MongoDB. Okay, so these two annotations we are going to create with help of this particular login as well here. First, we'll save the data. First, we'll save the data, and later we'll try to identify the loading section. Now you can see, so these are all the two important section we identified. Now what I will do, we need to go to this particular property file, and we are not going to use any H2 database section. So what I will do, I will try to comment all this H2 database related section, Spring dot MongoDB, so URI. So database name, port host with username and password. Let me write MongoDB. Do we have any? So this is we can provide. Okay, so what is the URI we can provide? If I'm going to provide this, where we can, how we can get this? So we don't need to add any database here. So I want to copy this. This is the URI I'm going to use, and after this I'm going to use inside the admin. So we already identified now here. This is the admin database config and local. So you can use any one of this. So now I'm trying to use inside the admin. So inside the admin, we are going to save the data. Okay. So this is, we are expecting is, now let me, so reload. Let me start the server. So these are all the few changes we are going to modify. Getting the point. So these are all the few changes. Basically, if I want to understand MongoDB, so we'll come up with one special class, because this is not the time to discuss about the MongoDB related section here. Now, what we can identify, so whether it is connected, MongoDB, initiated, default one. Okay, so it is connected. Yeah. Now you can see Mongo client with metadata. Here you can see the name of the driver. By default, it is providing whenever we are providing the starter. Okay, so this is the some information they are having. Now this is the local host 27017. This is the local host of this particular MongoDB. Now it is connected here. Getting the point. So once it is connected, now what we can do? So simply you can go to this example and you can run this example and save this. So what I'm doing here, Spring with MongoDB. So username Spring underscore Mongo. So and here MongoDB, some random numbers. City, email java@gmail.com. So again, I'm coming back to the Hyderabad. So something like 50001. Some fields are failing. maybe password. So password is wrong. Password does not match here. So here M I'm trying to make as a capital MONGO. So D and DB. Okay, so confirm password and password should match here. So the condition we implemented in the last session. Now you can see we are getting 500 here. So we need to identify why we are getting this particular 500. So let's see. So cannot auto generate the ID because the type call long. So now you can see because of this particular long we are unable to generate the ID. So why it is not able to generate here? Basically it should use the same. Okay, long I come up with a capital S. Okay, maybe so because of object it is not generating. So let's see. Basically, it should generate. So it will support all the predefined like primitive data whatever we are having. So maybe it's because of this particular object it is not generating ID. So now clear this and so try to start the same example one more time. Okay, so example is connected. Now we'll go for the same. So click on the registration. Spring with Mongo DB. So username spring underscore Mongo. Some random number I'm trying to give. So java@gmail.com. So city Hyderabad. Okay, so something like 50001. Click on save. Now you can see. So because of this particular object type, it is not save the data. Now what we need to understand here. So we need to identify in this particular admin database. Okay, so let me click on the refresh it. So we'll see. So now you can see login and registration. Login and registration, two objects are available. Getting the point. So if I'm trying to click this, now you can see ID, it starts with a 0. So username and password, and it is trying to providing the class type. Whatever the type we are having, so it is trying to providing the type here. Now if you're trying to click on this, now this is all the information. Because if you see, we did not excluded any field here. Whatever the field we provided, we did not exclude it. Because of that, all the fields are created here. Get in the pen. So password and confirm password, first name, last name, mobile number, something, email ID, and everything we are able to see. Get in the pen. So this is very important section we need to understand here. Basically, everything it is going to work based on this particular template. Because Spring Boot and the Spring, because these templates are coming from the Spring only. So basically, Spring will give you the boilerplate code. Basically, if you're not coming with this particular template, what happens? We need to create the connection like statements and closing connection. Get into it. So these are all the boilerplate code. This section it is going to take care of this particular templates. Only will focus on the business logic. Like if you want to insert or if you want to delete something, load something. So this section we can discuss here. Okay, this is the one of the important example we need to understand. But before discussing about the load method, now we need to understand the advantages what we are going to get when we are trying to discuss about this particular MongoDB. So basically, as I explained, MongoDB is not a relational database. So relational database are different, and this is the NoSQL database because internally it is trying to store the data as a document format. If you see, this is basically JSON format. If you copy this, so copy this particular document, and if you go to the where is the notepad? So if you go to this particular notepad, click on next and print this plugin. Oh, I think I don't have. So let me go to this plugin admin. Here I want to provide the JSON. Okay, so 1 second, the plugin is trying to download. So I hope now it is JSON viewer. Format this. Now you can see it is formatted into the JSON format. Getting the point. So if you save the relational database here, for example, what we have inside where we are now inside the Hibernate. So inside the Hibernate, what are the table we are having? Any data we are having? Now this is the data. But if I'm trying to copy this, copy this particular section, now we cannot convert it into the JSON format because this data is going to store as a raw format. This data is going to store as a document format. So this is the main advantage we are going to get here, and perform whatever the compare between the relational databases as well as this particular NoSQL databases. It will give you the more performance compared to this. And another important section, when we are trying to discuss about the collections, like when we are trying to have the one to many or many to many relations internally, what we will do basically, we'll create the another table. We'll try to create the another table. We are going to make the relations here. But here in the MongoDB, we are not going to provide any relations here directly. For example, we are going to provide multiple emails. When you are trying to providing this particular multiple emails, it will come up with the array type here. So instead of this particular single column, now it will come up with the array type. So if you know some basic information about the JSON, so it is going to create like this. Basically, in the email, it will try to come up with this section. Okay, inside this section, now it will try to create the each and every record. This particular section, now it will give as a array type here. Okay, so here only it will create array type and it will try to store the data. Instead of recreating the one more table and communicating with the like a primary key or unique key here. So this is the another advantage we are going to get. So here you can see, so this is the aggregation sections. If you are trying to communicate with any one-to-one table or one-to-many tables, so here we can provide the all the sections. But this information by default internally inside the each document also we can see the data. Okay, so this is very important section we are going to get from this particular MongoDB. And here, with help of this particular MongoDB, we are going to develop the web applications as well as the internet applications here. So any application we can develop with help of this particular MongoDB. And what you need to understand very clearly, so each database internally it is going to have node or doesn't nodes, like one node or many nodes we are going to have internally. The MongoDB internally it is going to perform based on the node concept. So whatever the node we already discussed in the data structures here, so same thing it is going to follow internally. So based on that, it is going to preview the it is going to give you the more performance compared to the another important section called the relational database. Getting the point. So now we identify this particular data is going to store in the documented rather than in this particular raw format. And another important here, so as I explained here, so it is going to save the data based on this particular JSON format. Okay, so JSON format basically how it is going to convert this MongoDB internally, it is going to use another important section called cell concepts. The cell basically it will try to use the JavaScript, so to convert the whatever the object we are trying to save here. So the object basically all the object we are trying to use object oriented, because nowadays all the applications they are trying to implement with help of this particular object oriented principles. Okay, so because of this particular object-oriented principles, now what happens internally? Because of Hibernate, like a MongoDB shell, it will try to convert the data into this particular JSON format. So this is the another important concept. It is going to implement it internally. So we don't need to worry about the conversion logic, because Hibernate is going to take care of the conversions here. So this is another important one we need to identify here. Okay, so we'll discuss this particular MongoDB because we need to lot of information we need to discuss, because MongoDB, with help of this MongoDB we need to identify the join sections, how we can communicate with the multiple tables here. So this section we are going to discuss later, like after completion of this particular sessions, 1 or 2 days we'll discuss about this particular MongoDB. But just now what we need to understand here, how we can discuss about the Mongo DB with the Spring Boot here. So how we can save this particular data with the Mongo DB. So if you're not interested directly this particular template, now what you can do, so you can go for the repository also. So we have a repository class. So for example, if you try to, I think extend here. So we have a Mongo repository. So it is a like a interface. So we can go for this particular implement section. So if you go to this particular repository, internally it is expecting the type. So here we can go for the type registration, and ID we can go for the long. It is expecting object type. Okay. Now what is expecting here? So if he is expecting to implement the method. Now if you see Mongo repository, basically it is an interface. It will have lot of methods. So these are all the methods we need to implement here. Now you can see. So first method save all, find all. So find all with the sort, and insert, find all. And now you can see save. So find by ID, exist by ID, whatever we have seen the methods here. Getting the point. And now you can see find one. First record, if I want to find, we can go for this count to exist find by. These are all the methods we have inside this particular repository. Basically, if you are identifying the GPA related example, so I can discuss about this particular Mongo repository. So we'll communicate to one example on the GPA repository as well, because we discuss about the Hibernate. So same way, we'll identify the GPA related example so that we can easily understand about this particular Mongo repository. So instead of doing this particular Mongo repository, now what we are doing is, so directly we are discussing about the template here. Okay, so this is another important we need to identify. This is the two ways of communication with help of this particular MongoDB related example here. Okay, now what we need, so whatever we implemented here, we need to identify this example here. So where is a load method? So this is the load method. Now we need to identify here. So let me take some time. So which method is suitable to find out the object information. So otherwise, simply we'll identify what are the methods we are having here. So execute we are having. DB callback is expecting here. So execute collection name and callback. Document find method, find all, remove, find by ID. Object ID is expecting and entity class. So we can write the object ID. ID we cannot load. So directly, so let me search here. So instead of wasting the time, we can go for and search the proper method. Mongo DB. So find based on the username and password. We'll see. No, find to username and password. So this is the different one. They are trying to find out the username and password. No, not this. Mongo DB based on string value. We'll see here, we are having some queries here. So they are trying to create a client to database documents here. So this is the query they are having. So from plain in the collection where plain is equal to true, select plain. So this is the C hash, but we need a, let's see, do we have any Java section? Yeah, we have a Java here. find goes here. So okay, I think this will give you the information. So now MongoDB collection they are trying to find out. So if you are trying to communicate only the specific MongoDB, these are all the information we need to write here. So now you can see we are trying to create with this is the URL we are having. So MongoDB localhost, so username and password, and this is the cluster we are trying to use. And finally, this is the condition. So whatever the condition we are having. Now this is we already provided inside this particular application or properties. Now we are creating the MongoDB client and we are loading the database and the documents we are loading. So from the documents we are calling this particular filter. So now you can see, so here we can write the find query and we are trying to use this particular equal. So maybe we can go for the same section. So this is we can use, and let's see how we can write a filter section. This is the filter one, it will work. Okay, he's expecting query objective. So now we can write the query. So if I want to write this query, so MongoDB query we are having. Let's see. This is the JPA and this is the query annotation, and remaining or not from the query class. So this is the class only, right? MongoDB query. So query dot do we have any equals? Only equals method we are having. We need to write the get a query object, add a criteria. So equals get connection, field metadata, hash code limit. So let me identify here only. We'll get to know so how they are trying to use. Where is the search? Do we have any? Okay, queries we don't have. Query and array, how to use the query. Okay, this is the query document we need to use. Now you can see we are having the data. So select all the documents here. So now status. So here they are trying to provide in the filter section. But now we need to use explicitly, not from this. Okay, so this is the query where status ID in. Directly status is equals to quantity less than. Okay, so basically this is providing in the like compose. So how we can use the compose related, but now we need to use from the Java. So to understand this, first we need to identify the query class. So how this particular query class is created, we need to debug this. Now you can see, so criteria we don't have. It's a simple one. So fields, limit skip with hits. Okay, so with okay, now I understand this. So we can go for this particular with the section. Document hint. Okay, so I will identify this, which query object we can prepare this, and we'll discuss about this section later. Now, so it's going to take some time because we need to read the internal classes how they are going to create here. Okay, so this is the simple example on the MongoDB integration. So So in upcoming class, what we will do, we'll try to discuss about the some of the features. What are the features we are having in the Spring Boot? So we have a lot of features we need to identify here, because if you see here, if the data is not available, if the page is not available, for example, so if I'm going to give test, so what happening, basically we are getting the error page here. So this is page is going to provided by the Spring Boot default page. Now what we need to identify, we can write the custom error page. How we can write the custom error pages? So we have a lot of features they provided with the dev tool. And if you identify another important section, when we are trying to start the server, we are getting some message here. If you see here, we are getting the message here. So this message, how we can override the message. Now you can see this is expecting the Spring. Okay, so and here they are trying to providing 2.7.3. This is the current version they are providing. So how we can provide the customization of this particular Spring, and along with this, now you can see this is the format, logger format. Getting the point. So this is very important. We need to understand here logger format. So this is the time frame, and this is the logger level, and this is the process ID, and the same way it is trying to providing the name of the class, and this is the message. So this is the default logger is going to provided by the Spring Boot. So the what is the default logger is going to provided by the Spring Boot? Logback. So if you observe carefully in the external libraries, we have a logback library also. Now if you go to somewhere, we can easily understand the logback related section. So you can see these are all the SLF4J with related section, but we need to identify the logback somewhere. It will available logging. So inside this particular logging, if I'm going to provide only, it does not contain the classes section, only metadata is having, and we need to identify another section here where it is having the logger framework here. Logging here we are having. So this is the logging classes we are having, but internally it is going to take care of logback related section. By default, Spring Boot will support the logback, but if you are interested to override this, now you can go for this. Now you can see here we are having logback. So in the first level only we are having the logback. Getting the point? So the logback, basically it is one of the logging frameworks. So we identify the SLF4J. So where we identify the SLF4J, when we are trying to discuss about the Hibernate related example. Now if you see here in the SRC, somewhere we provided log4j.properties here. So this is the log4j.properties we provided. So same way, Spring Boot is providing the logback. Now you can see here we are having the appender, file appender, as well as console appender. And Spring Boot, whatever the logback we are trying to discuss it, by default it is providing the console appender. And what is the format? So it is also trying to use the same format. Now you can see it is trying to use the the date format. So like what is the characters, how many characters we want to print, this is the format. And this is the again time frame. We already this particular pattern. And in the Spring Boot, what is the pattern they are trying to use? So this is the time frame, logger level, and process ID, and name of the particular class, and well as message here. So we'll see each and every message how it is working, how we can override the another logging framework. So this is the another important section we need to identify, and we need to discuss about the dev tool, and we need to discuss about the error page, as well as the final important section we need to discuss about the Accutor framework. Getting the point? So Accutor framework also is very important, so which is coming from only in the Spring Boot. So this framework, it is not available in the Spring Boot. Basically it will give you the information about the application health here. So how many objects are created? If I want to identify, we can go for the Accutor framework, we can easily identify here. Okay, so these are all the sections are pending. We'll try to continue. So most probably on Monday we are going to discuss here. Getting the point? So now from tomorrow onwards we don't have a session, so we'll try to connect on 5th. Okay, so because I'm not available these days, so I'm going for personal emergency, I'm going out here. Okay, we'll continue on Monday, so that is on 5th here. So meanwhile, so just go to this particular GitHub repository, so try to practice whatever we are discussing all the sessions here. Okay, so I will try to push this particular changes also. Okay, now wait here. So if I want to push this particular changes, now what we can identify here, first we need to go to the commit section, and again, so select this particular files here, so application.properties, login, pom.xml, registration, and user repository, and this is Spring Boot with Mongo DB. Okay, so commit and push. So we'll review the works like warnings later. Now I'm trying to push this. So whenever we are trying to push this particular changes, now what you need to understand, now it is pushed into the Spring underscore Mongo. Now I will go to here. Now you can see this is the different to this is the different to branch here. Now you can see Spring underscore Mongo is a future branch we created, and master is our main branch. So if you see in the real-time scenarios also, basically what happens, so we are going to create a main branch like a master branch, and if you are trying to work with any changes, we are going to create this like a future branches, and we need to provide the pull request. So how I'm going to provide this particular pull request. So click on the compare and pull. Now you can see here we can provide the reviews. Based on your organization, you are going to get the reviews here. Okay, so assignee. So you can select any one of assignee. By default, your name only it is going to show. You can provide the labels. So if it is a bug or documentation something, so it is an enhancements or something, whatever we are having, so we can select this particular labels here. So this is important here. Now you can see here it is providing the what are all the files we modified here. Getting the point. So this is a way of working the real-time scenarios here. So finally, now where it is moving, Spring underscore Mongo to the our master branch. So you can see the arrow here. So this arrow is providing the information from where to where you are trying to merge your changes here. Right now I'm trying to click on this particular pull request here. Now you can see it's checking the merge here. So you can see merge pull request. If your reviewers are approve your request here, so you are able to see. Otherwise, you cannot merge this. Basically, we can make some restrictions here. If you go to the settings, you can easily understand what are the settings we can make here. Okay. So finally, I am trying to merge this. Now, whenever I'm trying to merge this, now if you go to this particular code, now whatever we are able to see, Spring with MongoDB. But now we are under the master branch. Now we are under the master branch, but earlier we are trying to work on the changes in the future branch. So this is the way of writing the code here. Now the changes are pushed into this particular main branch here. Now you can copy and you can practice. So I will work on this particular load related section, and one day like we'll try to discuss more information about this particular MongoDB, how it is going to work. So what are all the different ways we can discuss it, what are the classes we are having inside this particular MongoDB. Each and every section we are going to have the sessions here. Okay, because nowadays all the applications they are trying to communicate with the MongoDB. So whatever we discussed in the Postgres also, now they're not using the any applications. If you have any application is trying to start with the scratch level, they are using the NoSQL databases. Like if you observe the MongoDB, you can easily understand about the Cassandra database. Okay, so you can work on the Cassandra simply. So same thing again, we are going to have the same template. We are going to have Cassandra template here. So using the Cassandra template, we can implement the changes here. Okay, so this is all about our today's session. So we'll continue on the Monday. Any questions? So anyone having any questions regarding our today's session? Okay, so if not, so try to practice all the examples, Spring related, Spring Boot related, so far whatever we discuss here. And if you are having the time, you can go to the whatever I discussed the project is. So I added the one of the project information. So like internet bank. So I explained already. So this is now if I'm going to show you the classes, I added lot of classes here. Now you can see internet banking. So these are all the DO related only. So two sections I'm having. But if you go to the model, so now you can see these are all the model classes like ATM related, ATM card track, ATM location, account to transaction, account to type. Account to type, I hope it is the enum. You can see current account as well as saving account. Here I created the enum. Okay. So this is also important where we can create the enum and where we can go for the classes section. Now you can see bill status. So bill status also we are trying to discuss about the enum. So draft processing completed. Okay, this is another important. And after that, so check service. So check status. Check status also again it is a enum. Okay, now this is like a one of the bank application we defined here. Now you can imagine all the like current applications are working. Same way you can write the classes and you can implement the changes. Okay, otherwise just copy the whatever I implemented and you can practice like continuation of this. So transaction type only I provided. So saving type, if you are interested, you can come up with a multiple type. So I'm not getting the times to complete this particular module. Getting the point. So I will try to complete this and I will provide the changes to this same branches. So meanwhile, so work on this particular section. And if you are interested, so you can go for the React related example. So whatever the React I given in the previous example, so copy the React code and you can implement this. So if you want to see the React code, most probably I need to go to the one more recent. So this is the React section. Terminate this. Reopening the files here. So whenever I'm having the time, I'm trying to implement these particular changes here. So while using the React as well as our Spring Boot here. Now you can see if you go to your SRC, so source directory, these are all the some images we are having, and you can go to the component, because inside this particular React or Angular, we are going to call it as a component here. So these are all the different component I created. Now you can see register component. What happening internally the register component here. So it is trying to load the state information. So these are all the fields we are using: first name, last name, username, password. So like a re-password, like it's like a confirm password. Email, mobile number, is primary phone or not. So gender, address 1, address 2, address 3, city, some fields. Okay, so and here I also provided errors. Why I'm providing the errors? If you miss something, we are going to save the data into this particular errors here. So where I'm checking this particular errors here, now you can see handle admin. So it's like a what we can over function. Basically, it is one of the over function I'm using here. Now what it will do? It will try to identifying internally based on this particular event. Now what we are doing here, we are trying to save the data. So this dot state password. This password I'm trying to set into this particular password. Okay. So from where I'm loading, from the state level, I'm trying to load this particular password. And the same way you can see the validate. Now we are trying to validate this. So where I provided the validate, you can see this is the validate method I'm using. Now you can check this dot state dot first name. If the first name not available in the state, we are making valid true and we are trying to set as an error. Here we are setting the error. By default, the errors are empty. Here whatever the error we provided in the state, by default it is empty. Now later we are providing the value. So we are going to provide this particular message. Please enter your first name. So this is we already identified in the previous example whenever we are trying to run this example. Okay, so to run this, now what we need? So you need to go to the readme. What happened this? Why it is not running? It should be run this. Okay, so we'll see later. So it should be npm. We need a npm command. So do we have npm? I think I am having. So npm is expecting something. React will expecting. Okay, somewhere I provided, maybe why the readme not loading this. Basically in the readme, I added all the informations here. Packet.json. But you can see the code here. So simply you can identify same way I provided: first name, last name, email, username, all the conditions I provided here. And finally, so I'm setting into this particular state. So somewhere I'm calling the change method. So let's see where I'm having service. This is the user service I'm using. So using this particular user service, I'm going to run, like I'm going to communicate with the database. So where I'm having here. Now you can see if the validations, we don't have any validation. So we are coming back to the else section. And inside the else section, what we are doing is we are calling the save user. So whenever we are calling this particular save user, we are passing the customer object. And once data is written from the customer, so we are checking the status. If the status is 200, we are trying to set into the cookie. Getting the point. We are trying to set into the cookie for reloading purpose here, and we are trying to state. We are trying to set the state information, and we are going back to the home page here. So here we can see alert message also I'm providing. So check your register email to activate your account. So once you register, you are going to receive one email, the link you need to activate here. So then only you are going to come back to the our home page. So again, so whether the register email is confirmed or not, we are going to check with the help of this particular valid flag. So everything I implemented here. So you can go to this particular React.js as well as the particular simple, the internet banking, whatever I provided here. Okay, so in these days you can practice this and you can let me know, so whatever you're having the questions here. Okay, so this is all about the agenda. So we'll continue on Monday. So hope, so we will try to practice whatever we discussed so far. Any questions? Okay, so if we don't have anything, so we'll continue on coming Monday.